Hello, welcome to the channel. The first month of the new year is gone, so it's time for me to do a wrap-up for my fanfiction reads. Oh, by the way, I'll back my front page with that thick book to level the journal. Before I start with talking about this first spread, I'd like to apologize that hey, I won't be doing a flip-through video of my 2024 fanfiction journal. Reason being, I felt it safer for now before I said anything that could hurt sentiments. Perhaps sometime in the future, I may change my mind. But for now, no, I'll not be making that video. Besides, I do flip through segments for each of my monthly videos, so there's no much need. So anyway, this first fanfiction is titled Bloody, Slutty and Pathetic, written by Murda. Well, it took me 3 days to finish this 21-chaptered fic. Sounds short, but the chapters are long. It's a marriage law fic. I got this one as a rec on Instagram. It was claimed as a good fic with a pathetic pining Draco Malfoy. He pines alright, just not exactly how I wish it to be. I printed the fic title here, spaces apart, so that I can cut out each word properly. The fact that Draco was so accepting of Hermione as his wife from the beginning impresses me. How he's quick to punish anyone who says or do bad things to her. Also, how he's always reminding, correcting everyone to address her as his wife, Mrs. Malfoy, even Hermione Malfoy herself. What I was really impressed with the writing was how the author managed to use reverse psychology in many parts of the story, especially how the society, even the Weasleys, looked down upon Hermione, not just as a muggle-born, but as a woman. How they all found it more logical and right that she's the one to be victimized and suffer instead of the ex-Death Eater Draco Malfoy. All this in the pretense of them being sympathetic at the situation that has befallen on her. And because she's a woman and a mudblood, they get restless when they see her happy and successful with him. It cuts deep, making you feel disgusted even at the motherly Molly Weasley. Here are 2 AI-generated images I did. As for the negative parts, I confess, I wasn't too happy with the frequent and long scenes between Theo and Charlie and etc. Even Neville Pansy. I mean, I'm not against their pairings. I rather like Neville and Pansy. But to have their scenes every single time and so lengthy, I really did not appreciate that in a Dramione fanfiction. Rather have it more focused on Draco and Hermione. Also, I felt Draco's mother was rather underutilized. Would have loved more interactions with Narcissa Malfoy. Oh yeah, I would indicate the index number of the fic I reviewed in conjunction with my reading log pages. By the way, this fic has its fair share of grotesque scenes that kinda make you squirm, especially when Draco goes erratic at punishing people who hurt his wife. Feeding people's diced up tongue, for example, as cat treats to Crookshanks. I'm gonna award this fic a 4-star rating. Well, overall, I still think this fic is a good read. It's definitely a fic I frequently find on a Dramione recommendation list, so that must be saying something. Moving on, the second fic I'm reviewing is titled Safe Home, written by Kakis. Quite a short multi-chapter story with just 15 chapters, so it only took me a day to finish it. From the first Dramione scene in the fic, I could already sense the intensity between them, what with Draco's constant demeanor around Hermione. I dove into the story not knowing what to expect, because note, I never read author's notes. I simply can't be bothered and would just skip them entirely. To me, your written work should speak for itself and how the reader interpret them to be. I don't need the author's explanation or justification, so yeah. So, like I said, I did not expect anything when I dove into this story. And boy, this story grew on me. Anyway, yeah, more AI pitches for this review spread. Spoiler alert, this is a werewolf Draco trope. And truth to be told, I always avoid such tropes of Draco. I prefer him being a Vila if it makes him a magical creature, given his pale blonde hair and sharp facial features. And like I said, the story grew on me. He was apparently one of Fenrir Greyback's victims. Though, throughout the fic, I wondered why none of them thought of Bill Weasley for reference. But ooh, the intensity. I love it. What I love always about fanfictions is when there are a few characters involved. It's easier to focus on the main character's story only, and this fic is such a fic. There are basically only 4 characters: Draco, Hermione, Harry, and Padma Patil. Well, this fic is of a plot where Dramione are being placed alone together at a safe house. So basically, they had a house just for themselves. To be honest, I had a suspicion that the whole safe house thing was a plan set up by Draco himself to win his mate. But apparently no, they really needed hiding from a crazy villain. But really, the whole villain thing was just an excuse for the author to put them both alone in the house. Eventually, the ending was rather vague and questionable for me, with nothing really done with the villain. Anyway, I'll also award this fic 4 stars. The whole point of the story was for Draco to meet with his intended. Seriously, the lemons and the nothings. If you know what that is, you know. Hot. Really, I was expecting a scene where Dramione get caught in action while he's still knotted. But no such scene happened. Oh well. Well, like I said, I wasn't impressed with how the story ended, particularly to whatever happened to that French cousin of Draco's. How was it that both Draco and Hermione were easily just released just because they finally knew who's behind the attack? Nonetheless, I still think it's a very good read for a Dramione shipper. Very intense, at least among Draco and Hermione. Do give it a read if you haven't. For the other fics that I do not give 2-page review spreads, I review them like this. It's a revised template from my previous 2024 journal. Anyway, I am very aware that a section of the fanfiction community is opposed to rating fanfictions. For me, I like doing that since it's my journal. I love to see if my ratings differ if I ever reread a certain fic. So yeah. And yep, more AI generated pictures. Another thing I know the same community is opposed to. For me, I love having this. Like I said, it's my journal. By the way, yes, these green sticker dots will indicate the index numbers of the fanfictions. And yep, if you noticed, I do read other fanfictions that aren't Harry Potter related. Wednesday being my other favorite. By the way, that first fic there, Prometheus, read it. Great one shot. So this is my reading log. I'll color the fanfictions that I review, just in random greens of my palette. And that's my favorite quote of the month from the fanfiction titled Buttercup. I'll be using this unpeeled sticker and this washi tape. To make like a flap window, just for a simple interactivity. I'll be using pie charts for my monthly statistics. Be using this app called Trace Table. Basically using my iPhone as a light box. Trace up the sections. List down the tropes for this chart. Start coloring the areas with my green color pencils. Yeah, I rather do this manually rather than printing out the pie charts, just because. Lastly, outline the lines again. And I guess it's time for a flip through. That's 3/4 of my DNF's page filled this month. I'm happy I managed to fill all 3 pages of my reading log though. And I guess that's about it. So, thank you guys for watching up till here. Happy reading and bye bye.